Hello, this is Zach Gimignani with Juice Analytics, author of the book Data Fluency. In our second design principle for creating great data products, I want to focus on the challenge of narrowing down the data that you show so you really only show the most important data on the screen. Now, to do so, you really have to realize that not all the data that you could show is valuable. I love this quote from Amanda Cox, who leads up the information design team at the New York Times. She says, "Data isn't like your kids. You don't have to pretend to love them equally." And that's so true. It can be very easy as you are doing an analysis and exploring data to fall in love with all the data and feel that it's important that all that information be shown to your audience. But realize that your audience doesn't have the time or capacity to absorb all of that information. And it's your job as the author of a data product to narrow that down, to really help them understand only the most critical information, help them focus, and you're really doing them a favor if you can do that. A framework that we like to use as we're thinking about what data to show is the distinction between data that's interesting on the one hand, and most of that data can be interesting, versus something which could be useful, versus the thing you're really trying to get to is actionable data. So if you look at a weather site, for example, there might be a lot of interesting stories about odd weather events, but it's not really relevant to you as a visitor to that site. Useful might be to have a broad sense of the weather that's going on across the country. But actual data on a weather site is really what the forecast is for you over the next couple of days, which is the stuff you can do something about. With that, I want to show you a data product that we created at Juice that does a good job of narrowing down the data that we show. One of the biggest challenges in presenting data is knowing what information to show and when to show it. This problem is particularly acute for survey data, which offers many ways to slice and dice, many questions, and different ways to segment a population. I want to share a data product that shows survey data, which makes all that content relatively easy to navigate. It does it by letting the user find the interesting outliers and then only showing the data associated with that interesting information. In this case, we have a survey about employee satisfaction. There are more than 30 questions. Unfortunately, those questions roll up into some categories, shown here. As a starting point, I can choose the categories that are lowest or lowest relative to a benchmark. So let's choose a few of those. Immediately, that user is narrowing down the data for themselves. Each of the dots below in this visualization show the individual questions and how they fit along a couple of dimensions. One of those dimensions is how it correlates with overall satisfaction, and the other is the actual score itself. So I'll go ahead and show all those questions again. But you can see that I could narrow within a category and immediately focus on specific questions. Even within this view, I might just want to choose a few questions where we're seeing really the lowest scores or the problem areas. So I've narrowed down my analysis to be able to see just a few questions at this point. And if I look at those questions, I can drill even further to see the details and the results for that individual question down here. So you can see that I've taken all of this survey data and in effect, I've made it easy for the user to be the one who discriminates on what data that they find most relevant to them, select the things that they care about or are obvious outliers in the visualizations, and quickly get down to content that is most important to them.